Legend has it that it was written by the Dark Ones, Necronomicon Ex Mortis, roughly translated, the Book of the Dead. The book serves as a passageway to the evil worlds beyond. It was written long ago when the seas ran red with blood. It was this blood that was used to ink the book. Now it's in my hands and I'm going to use it to make GateSlashers permanent. GateSlashers.
I cannot believe you forgot to put gas in the car, so now we have to run across the city to the office.
I can't believe you left the Necronomicon in your desk, unlocked and unguarded.
Alright, touche, but I did think the minions were going to guard the office while we were gone.
Can't call Ethan that.
No, like the actual minions. You really need to go into the office more.
I mean, not when the world is like this. I saw zombies down that street. I watched the Count from Sesame Street drain a guy of his blood. And my dad, Godzilla, is here. Everything has gone to hell. We're still a block away from the office.
Alright, let's just hoof it over there and see if we can reverse this nightmare. Oh shit. The front doors are wide open. Alright, we better be ready for everything. Trust no one. Kandarian demons can take over almost any host.
Shoot first, ask questions later. Got it.
No, not... Whatever. Let's just go in.
Hey, lads. Christ!
Sorry, Ethan. Thought you were a deadite. Turns out, just well.
Turns out you're a bastard.
But hey, what are you doing here?
I called him. The Necronomicon is written in Latin, so I assumed Ethan could read it.
And you assumed because he's British and that he knows Latin?
Yeah, Giles from Buffy did.
Well, I do. Anyway, I accidentally let the minions out when I got here, so it's us against whatever's in the office.
Okay, alright, so we need to get to the armory. I think we have some, like, spooky demon dagger shit up there that'll help us fight the grave robber and get this book to fix all this mess.
Why do we have an armory?
It's America, Ethan. Everyone has an armory.
Well, let's kick some demon butt.
Welcome to GateSlashers, a podcast dedicated to kicking open the door to your next favorite thing. Our mission, our creed, and our code is this: to make all things more approachable and accessible to everyone. We want you to find a universe that you'll fall in love with. I am joined once again by Jordan Edwards, who you may know from the Doctor Strange episode or the wonderful articles that he writes on the site. But today, to finish off our GateSlashers month, we're talking Evil Dead. So, Jordan, where did you? What is your relationship with the series? Like, where did your love start?
Where to start? Oh man, I think I don't know. It's kind of pretty hard to remember. It's been like a while, but I think the first memory of encountering Evil Dead as a franchise came with the video game Poker Night at the Inventory 2, which was like a game that Telltale did, which had like a bunch of crossover characters all coming together to play like Texas Hold'em poker. And I played it because like I love like Portal and Sam and Max, which were both like represented in it. And then there's this character Ash, one of the few times that Bruce Campbell hasn't actually voiced the character. But then I was like, I wonder who this character is. Then I kind of tracked down the movies. Then I watched Evil Dead 2 in high school and just like fell completely in love. And then just that became like my obsession. Yeah, that was kind of a weird entry point where most people I think start with the film.
That is a wild entry point.
Yeah. And it also introduced me to The Venture Brothers, which became one of my favorite shows as well. Yeah, it is a weird start.
You and I are going to have to do an episode about that as well, because I've never watched that.
You need to watch it.
So I've never watched it, but I went to one of their panels at New York one year. Do you know how they do their Comic-Con panels where they smoke the whole time?
Yeah.
I saw it after they weren't allowed to smoke cigarettes in the theater, so they smoked blue cigarettes the whole time.
Yeah.
Just hilarious people.
Yeah.
So my relationship with Evil Dead, I do not know when it started. I think it was middle school, but all I know is that after that, it was like forever. Because I have the, I don't know when these editions came out, but I have the editions that are actually in the Necronomicon, like the plush Necronomicon books. And every year in high school, I would have an Evil Dead party where all my friends would come over and we would watch Evil Dead 2.
Cool.
And since then, I actually went to, funny, when I interviewed Bruce Campbell, I got to tell him this, but I went to the premiere of My Name is Bruce. And being like a freshman in high school, I was just like nervous and like, oh my God, like this is Bruce Campbell. I asked him why he was such a badass. And he said, I'm not. I don't even know how to use a chainsaw. And then went on to tell me how he's not at all. And he goes, look how sad that kid is. So I got him back, though. I finally got to ask him real questions.
Man.
But what would be your elevator pitch for the franchise of Evil Dead?
I think the elevator pitch is that I don't know, it's weird because like describing the plot is not really that appealing. Like you describe the premise, it's like, okay, it's a guy locked in a cabin being like harassed by demons and monsters. Doesn't sound the best. But like it's the way that it's presented, it's kind of a weird mix of like Looney Tunes and like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it's such an interesting combination. But I think the way that I would picture it is that it's a series of films made by people who are just clearly in love with what they're doing and they're like pushing the limits of their own craft. I think that's the way that I would picture it.
Yeah, it's reading. I read a couple of Bruce's books, but like hearing the backstory, how they all got it done. It was just a wild story. So Jordan is dealing with coming back on the mend from a bunch of different illnesses that have made his throat very sore, but he is the one who is taking care of most of the script. So I will be reading it and telling you all the history and things like that. But I just want you to know this is Jordan's words and not mine, because mine are usually much more crass. So a brief history of the topic. Evil Dead is a classic horror franchise that began in 1981 with the release of The Evil Dead, directed by Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. This scrappy little indie project managed to become a cult sensation. Lauded for its dingy and gnarly tone, its success led to 2 increasingly bonkers sequels of Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, both still directed by Raimi and starring Campbell. This loose trilogy was successful, but came into its own on home video as audience fell in love with the series' bonkers tone, groundbreaking technical wizardry, and hardcore gore. This helped the series amass a dedicated and passionate fan base that elevated Raimi and Campbell to the status of B-movie gods. The series continued to influence pop culture today, with numerous filmmakers from Quentin Tarantino and James Cameron admiring Raimi's work. The last decade has expanded the series even further with a remake, a video game, a TV show, comics, cross-promotion, and a new movie on the way. Going over the background, how it started and why it was so popular, that was a note for myself. Who funded the original one? It was like they were trying to just talk to people in their town.
Yeah, it was.
Wasn't there one major person?
They talked to lawyers and dentists and just regular working people in their town. Yeah. They made a point of like dentists for some reason had a lot of money to throw at the film.
That's incredible. Especially because, like, watching the movie as it is, just imagining dentists having to sit through it afterwards is awesome.
Yeah.
So, typically we talk about themes of franchises, but Evil Dead isn't a thematically rich franchise. It revels in slapstick comedy. It is so clear that these dudes love Three Stooges.
Yeah.
And, like, that comedy is so apparent. The excessive gore and goofy practical effects. Rarely does it claim to be anything more layered than that. There are other things to find across the series, but for the most part, it's a very fun, goofy thing, especially if you love film. Like, there's a lot of things that Sam Raimi kind of pioneered with these films, like the chase cam, the slide. You'll be able to talk about that in the actual discussion, like the slide cam, things like that. Now, who may like The Evil Dead? Evil Dead is such a weird thing to recommend to people because it has such a strong and specific aesthetic. The audience are either on board or they're not. It can get very wild, but the good thing is the series kind of evolves with each film, and it kind of appeals to different people. Each film pulls from very different cinematic sources, but all together into something better than the sum of its parts. The original film is a straight-up horror movie. It's gnarly, gross, and incredibly gory. It's more supernatural and is trying to genuinely be upsetting and creepy. The 2013 remake sequel goes for a similar vibe, but leans even harder into the body horror and viscera. So if you love the texture and style of something like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the creepy possessions of The Exorcist, and the slasher tropes of Friday the 13th, these might be up your alley. The remake is one that made me scream in theaters when, a little bit of a spoiler, when she's cutting her face with the mirror.
Yep.
That entire scene haunts my mind forever. But Evil Dead is still gory and scary, but also is going for the laughs, playing up the terror for comedic. I liken it to Looney Tunes or Mad Magazine, but with a horrifying nightmare world. So if you're a fan of absurd comedy, you'll probably love this one. Army of Darkness, the third film in the trilogy, pushes this even further. This one just loses the horror altogether and acts as a love letter to old adventure films by the likes of Ray Harryhausen. It's all about the comedy, cheesy one-liner, and practical effects. So if it sounds like it's up your alley, check that out. Ash vs. the Evil Dead, the television show, this one's off the rails, this is all me, is Ash at his most just unhinged. He's like in his 50s, just pounding beers the entire time. He's a mess. He finally has a group of people who he's with. Like, for me personally, and I've watched these movies since I was a adolescent. Like, I've been grown on these movies, but Ash versus the Evil Dead is like my favorite because you just get Ash at his most unhinged. Yeah. So if that sounds interesting to you, check that out.
I would also add that Ash vs. Evil Dead is kind of an amalgamation of all the elements of the different films. So it has like the straight up horror of Evil Dead, where Evil Dead 1, the kind of wackiness of 2, and then the kind of the one-liners and cheese of Army of Darkness. So it all kind of accumulates into one thing by the end.
I can't remember the name of it, but I think it's the Possessor Demon from season 1.
Yep.
Is probably my favorite creature from the entire franchise. He's got these like badass teeth that come out from his lower jaw. Yep. He's also playable in the game, which is sick. Now, where can you get it? If you're gonna watch it, watch the theatrical version of Army of Darkness. Now, most of them are streaming across different platforms. The Evil Dead is on Hulu in the US. That's the remake. Oh, it was Evil Dead the remake or The Evil Dead the remake?
The Evil Dead is the original. Evil Dead is the remake.
Got it. So the remake is on Hulu. The Evil Dead is on Peacock. Army of Darkness is also on Peacock. Maybe Evil Dead 2 is on HBO Max. They just re-released them in 4K and Blu-ray in a new collection. So you're not going to get them all in one place. And the reason being is that Universal owns Army of Darkness, while 1 and 2 is owned by someone else. The show is Showtime. Stars or Showtime.
Stars.
And then the Stars. And then the remake is Miramax? Or Warner?
Which one? The remake?
The remake.
Warner, I think.
Yeah, so the box has Evil Dead 1, 2, and the television show. Does not have the movie, does not have the remake. It is a beautiful box set. So if you're looking to watch them all in 4K, if you're a snob, watch it that way. It did not make a difference for me. I was just so happy to see these movies again. Now, we are going to take a break here. You'll get to see what happens to the crew as they're going through the GateCrashers trying to deal with their own Necronomicon. But when we come back, we will be able to talk spoilers. So go watch these films, and Jordan and I are going to talk The Evil Dead.
Splitting up was a terrible idea. Dan's going to get himself killed.
Nah, his argument of Scooby-Doo logic being screamed at the top of his lungs as he ran down the hallway to try to find the grave robber seemed like a really well thought and researched plan.
Mom, you genuinely believe that? I can see why this kind of thing keeps happening to both of you.
Grab some stuff from the armory. I'll guard the door. I hear something coming.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
I've got a fun game for you. It's called See How Much Lead You Can Eat. Whew. Everything's good. You friggin' stabbed me!
Oh god, I thought you were dead. I'm so sorry. I really thought you were dead.
It's fine. Just please pull the aim and dagger out.
Well, I got the dagger. And some other stuff. We had a chainsaw and there were some bite marks on it.
Oh yeah! From the Chainsaw Man episode. Dan's gonna love this. Really drives home the Evil Dead theme. I wonder what he's up to.
The grave robber has the book. He's not in my office. Where could he be?
It won't matter for long, Dan. You'll be dead way before you can find him.
Oh no, Amanda! You've been possessed.
What? Demon got your tongue?
I don't know what to do.
You're always so full of questions, but it looks like you've got no answers this time.
You know, no one ever asked me my favorite sandwich.
What's your favorite sandwich? I'll make sure it's served in hell.
Knuckle. Out like a light.
There you are.
Daniel, look what we've got! Catch!
Huh? Ah! My hand!
Whoops. I guess this is why we're not a sports podcast.
So much blood.
Nothing groovy about that. But the grave robber is in the basement, so we should really get down there.
Fuck, shit, piss ass, my goddamn hand!
Just replace it with a chainsaw and stop whining. You wanted to cover Evil Dead, so I just helped you make it more accurate to the source material.
Oh, God. Alright. Alright. Let's finish this. Alright, so where do you want to start with Evil Dead? Like, what is the most... I know you know the history of all of this.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the most interesting thing about Evil Dead?
I think the most interesting thing about Evil Dead is how the original 3 films progress as a trilogy. As I say trilogy very loosely because they're all kind of in their own continuity. They don't really make sense or connect all that much. Like they keep changing the continuity and retconning things. But yeah, I think the through line of the 3 movies, even though they are so different and distinct, it's just like Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell coming more and more into their own kind of, as filmmakers, as creatives. Yeah, I think it's such an interesting thing to watch them all kind of one after the other. So, Evil Dead 1 in particular has always been like the most inspiring film to me because it's a film where like Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell were like childhood friends from high school. They made a bunch of like Super 8 films when they were kids, just kind of running around doing stuff. I love like the Three Stooges and like dumb comedy and stuff. And they're like, okay, we should like actually make a film. And then they did that. They made a short kind of proof of concept film called Within the Woods, which they went around and showed to different investors like dentists and lawyers and stuff. And then they eventually managed to get, I think it was $375,000, I think. And they just went out into the woods, found some crappy cabin, and made the movie. And it was complete hell. But, like, it just, the kind of, like, go out and do it energy of the original Evil Dead, I think just completely shines through, you know?
Yeah, I ever since I like learned all of that, I love the idea that it's just these buddies. It was those two. Who was there's another guy that was involved with
Rob
most of them,
Tappert?
wasn't there?
Robert Tappert is the
Yeah.
producer.
Robert Tapper did a lot of the special effects, right?
But they all kind of did everything. I don't think he was in charge of that, but yeah, it was.
They're all just
It was a production where like all of the actors were all also like key grips and helping out, and like moving things around and like making fake blood and keeping the set warm and stuff. Yeah, it was a nightmare scenario for filming.
the keeping the set warm stuff is wild because it was so cold that they're like taking turns like trying to warm up.
Yeah, and by the end of the shoot, they were burning furniture because like they were. This was not a set that they're filming in the first movie. That is an actual like broken down abandoned cabin that they found in the woods, and they just went and filmed it and slept there. And like the living conditions were abysmal.
It's so interesting that they're just like out there. Like that is the energy I love in the world. That it's just like if you want to do something, then just do it.
Yeah, that's why I find
Like,
it so inspiring.
Yeah, I love that energy.
Yeah,
I try to do. You just do.
Yeah.
I love that. I love these two are just still like best friends, and Sam Raimi is just absolutely abusive to Bruce Campbell. Like anywhere they go. Like I read a story recently that he showed up. Can't remember what film it was. But Bruce showed up to set to say hi to Sam Raimi, and Sam Raimi basically made him look like absolute shit, put him in a costume, and just had the lead actor beat the shit out of him,
yeah,
and then didn't use the scene in the film. Like I love that energy.
Yeah.
Like I just think that's the funniest thing to me.
yeah. Like that's the kind of energy of the whole series. Is it like the Evil Dead series is an excuse for Sam Raimi to beat up his like high school friend? Because like Sam Raimi is kind of like
it's awesome.
He's like a weird nerd, and like Bruce Campbell is just kind of like hunky jock that he can kind of like play out his sadistic fantasies on, and like have him beat himself up and like flip him around, and he's like, okay, and now your hand is possessed, and you're like punching yourself in the face. Can you act out that, please, Bruce?
And it's like, I also love when actors bring, or actors, directors, whatever, bring their buddies into everything.
Yeah.
Because Bruce has gotten to be in 3 Spider-Man films. He's back, now he's in the MCU. Like, he's everywhere.
Yeah.
He's in Darkman for like one shot, isn't he?
Yes, he's in the final shot of Darkman. He's called the final shimp as well, which is a fun reference to the original Evil Dead.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's some of my favorite stuff. But, how much do you know about the lore of Evil Dead? Because I don't know if anyone knows the real lore because it like changes from movie to movie.
Yeah. I mean, I know the lore, but it's not something that I'm like really paying attention to the continuity because these movies do not care about continuity at all. I think all the original 3 movies were made with the energy of what's the coolest idea we can have for this scene, and not like how can we make a world that feels consistent and believable. And then Ash vs. Evil Dead kind of like recontextualizes a lot of that stuff and makes it work. So, like for example, in like Evil Dead 1, the Necronomicon is read with Ash and his friends kind of sitting around the fireplace reading it. And then in Evil Dead 2, in the flashbacks, they kind of retcon that he was reading it down in the cellar, listening to a tape recorder. And then Ash vs. Evil Dead, they have a scene where Ash isn't sure which it is because he was like, I was probably too drunk, I can't remember like which one it was. There's a lot of stuff like that where like none of it really makes sense in the movies, but then the show kind of like makes it click a little bit more. But yeah, it's not really an emphasis.
Like in the game, there's like those the dark ones at the end. You fight every match. I'm like, when the fuck were these people in anything?
Yeah,
like I was like, all right, that's what they came in. I was like, what the hell? Like, it's awesome. But I love the idea that they're not zombies, but they're demons possessing people because like it's very clearly something different because they're sadistic. They often will play on your insecurities because like they're taking the bodies of your friends, your people you love, and then they're like mocking you with it.
Yeah, I think that's part of the appeal of Evil Dead is that they're the creatures in themselves are kind of an amalgamation of a lot of different things. Like Evil Dead, the original one especially is like, it's kind of a slasher movie, but also kind of a zombie movie, but also has like elements of like The Exorcist and stuff. It's a weird horror hodgepodge of lots of different things just kind of thrown together, and it works. It's also, I think it's the rare horror franchise where the protagonist is the selling point and not the monsters. Like, I love the deadites, I love the kind of the weird creatures, but Ash is why you watch Evil Dead. Whereas, like, like something like Halloween, like maybe Jamie Lee Curtis is there and you love her, but you're watching it for Michael Myers, or you're watching Nightmare on Elm Street for more Freddy.
It is weird that he was like the first Scream King. Like, it was. Usually it was the final girl and things like that, and they were like, no, we're gonna change it up and see what happens when it's a guy who's getting tortured and run after with like weapons and stuff like that. There was no one, I'm trying to think. There was no one before that was like this.
More like an action star in a horror movie?
Yeah, there was no like leading man for horror at that point, was there?
I'm not really sure. By the time the first Evil Dead came out, like slasher kind of final girl tropes were still kind of being kind of popularized, because like the year before that you got Friday the 13th, and then 2 years before that you got Halloween, which kind of like makes that whole thing, solidifies it as a genre. So it was kind of it was an interesting forebearer in that sense. Because like even since it's not really a very common thing, I see a lot of men being the final girl in horror movies. The
only real Scream King other than Bruce Campbell is Patrick Wilson. Yeah. Bruce Campbell walks so Patrick Wilson could run. Like that's my big feeling there. I love Patrick Wilson. And I'd love to see those two together because they both have like that'd be great charisma. Yeah. But I think Patrick is much more charming in a wholesome way than Bruce is. Yeah. Bruce is a lot more edgy. You can get drunk in a parking lot and wrestle type of guy. But yeah, it is interesting that these are the horror movies that you go to for the human and not the monster.
Yeah, for sure. And like also like it's not a series where the character becomes more heroic as he goes on. If anything, he becomes more of a belligerent idiot as the 3 films progress. Like in the first film, he's just kind of like some like he's more of like a jock character. I think one of the strengths of the first film is that like there's like a lot of final girl kind of movies, you kind of know who the main character is going to be by the first act. Like Halloween, like it's clear that Jamie Lee Curtis is the star of that movie, whereas the original Evil Dead, like there's nothing that's really indicating that Bruce Campbell is a star. He's not even the best performance in the movie, I would say. He's very rough around the edges. He's kind of like a wimp for most of the movie, and then he's kind of forced to take on this role. And then like they just kind of throw him into more and more like ridiculous circumstances where he's forced to kind of confront evil and become more of a hero.
Before we get into this, like talking like how he progressed, the first film into the second film, it's kind of just like a full redo, right? Like,
so the thing is, for Evil Dead 2, when they made Evil Dead 2, they didn't have the rights to Evil Dead 1, so they thought they'd just recap it at the start of the movie. So it's basically like retelling the first movie for the first like 10 minutes or so, and then the rest is a sequel. But yeah, it's a little bit confusing. Because you're watching it and you're like, is he going back to the cabin? Like, what is he doing?
Did he not have a worse time? Like, does he want to try redo? Like, also, in the second one, did they rent the cabin, or they just knew a cabin existed out there and were like...
No, this was a new cabin that they filmed. I'm trying to remember where it was. And in the second... So the second one, it's between a cabin that they built out in the woods and one that they built inside like a school gymnasium, which was all of the interior stuff. So it was different from the first movie. It wasn't an actual cabin that they found.
So in the actual story, though, do they rent the cabin, or they just go and break into someone's house and stay there?
I think they're just going to some house. Like, it's just a cabin. I don't think they rent it. No.
Could you imagine that? Just like, oh yeah, dude, I know this cabin out in the woods. We're just gonna go. We're gonna stay there. Isn't that breaking and entering? No, we're going to stay there. Like, you know what? It does not go well for them. So
No, it's also kind of weird because
It's
they established that Professor Nobi, who the cabin belongs to, was like staying there. Like that's his actual cabin that he goes to and stays. It's not like it's been abandoned in a really long time.
yeah, I really love that. I think it's such a good thing they come back. Also, we didn't mention that there's a musical.
Oh yeah.
Have you listened
No, I
to the
haven't
musical?
seen it.
And
Or listened to it, no.
oh, I've only seen the original cast recording, and I listen to it all the time. It is so funny because it's it's amalgamation of 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
But like you know the part in 1 where is his name Scotty?
Yes, Scotty.
His buddy.
Yep.
So when the basement door opens and she's like, "It's probably the wind," and he like is really demeaning to her.
Yeah.
It like takes that and it's just like, what a stupid bitch, and like he keeps going and then he gets killed. But
That's
like
great.
the whole thing is it's a wild musical.
Yeah,
And the first couple of rows, if you go and see it, you have to understand that it is a splash zone.
Oh,
because
right.
any performance will get you drenched in
Yeah,
blood,
of course,
which is
of course.
it's so Evil Dead.
Yeah, yeah.
The amount of I would love to know the liter, like the gallon count of fake blood that they use for these movies.
For sure, yeah. That'd be fascinating.
Because I think it's 2 where the walls literally just spew
Yeah,
blood.
2 would have the most. But I think
Yeah.
1 is still the most disturbing in its core content. I think just because, like, all of the effects feel a lot grosser. Like, I always say that, like, Evil Dead 1 is a movie that you can smell. Like, you can just, like, you can watch
Yeah.
it and you can,
Ugh.
like, tell that, like, that cabin smells like absolute garbage. All of the blood looks disgusting. Like, the final shot of the movie that they did is when the deadite explodes all over Ash and he gets covered with, like, dog food and, like, syrup and stuff. And it looks disgusting because it actually was. Whereas in, like, 2 and Army of Darkness and Ash vs. Evil Dead, they can kind of make effects that, like, it looks gross, but, like, it's actually not that bad once you're on set or whatever. But that first one, like, that kind of, like, DIY spirit makes it, like, just so gnarly.
I never thought about the smell.
Yeah.
Have you've seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right?
Yeah.
So that the room where they go into the house and it's full of like chicken bones and stuff, like it's just full of bones.
Yeah.
All of those were just chickens.
Yeah.
That they like had to like collect, so it stunk. So people would take turns going outside to throw up while filming.
Yeah.
Like, imagine being in that situation as an actor.
I know. It's like, I mean, like, for the first Evil Dead, like, a bunch of the actors left when, like, there was more filming to be done because they're like, screw this. This has been a nightmare. We're, like, out of here. We don't want to help anymore. Like, and I totally get that. Being, like, your Texas Chainsaw Massacre comparison is usually the one that I make when I'm comparing Evil Dead 1 to something. I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is kind of the closest equivalent just in terms of, like, tone and style. They're both very grungy and very, like, low quality, but in a very charming way that makes it even scarier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've Evil Dead does the opposite of what Texas Chainsaw does. Like, Texas Chainsaw doesn't show you it. Evil Dead's like, no, check this out, dude. Like, just look at this. Look at this explosion. Yeah. Like, I love that energy. I remember like the contacts they had to wear when they were I keep calling them Kandarian demons, the Deadites.
Deadites, yeah.
Those were like only supposed to be in for like an hour at a time.
No, 15 minutes. They were in there for 15 minutes. They were glass contacts, and you could hardly see out of them. Yeah, and apparently, like, it would hurt your eyes. So they would, like, take 15 minutes and then take them out, and then to do it, like, have a break for a bit, and then do it again. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Sounds
Especially
rough.
having a glass contact in your eye. Ugh,
Yeah.
ugh. But you know what? It went on to make something special.
It did. It's a movie that you can tell was, like, rough to make, which makes it, makes the movie. But, like, yeah, it's one that, like, I would not have wanted to work on it.
So you are more of a film person than I am.
Yeah.
I'm more of like the other stuff. How, I don't know if you know the answer, but how does Raimi get the effect of the camera chasing you? So like at certain points of the film, like there is the demon or the
Demon
whatever
vision
is
kind of
chasing
thing. Yeah.
people. Yeah.
So that's kind of what Raimi and Stucky then called like the shaky cam. What that basically is, it's just a plank of wood, and they just kind of strap a camera in the middle of it, and then have two guys running at either end of the plank, and then they just kind of like speed up the footage. So it's a really simple technique that they make work really, really well, and it's super effective. And it's been like used so much in so much other stuff. And like that camera technique has been used by like so many low budget people, and yeah, but it's just there's an ingenuity to these movies where like you can just see them being like, okay, we want to do this shot, how are we going to achieve that? Okay, I guess we can't afford this gear, we'll just like make it with like just some tools that we have and some blocks of wood.
That's I didn't know it was people running with them.
Yeah.
I love that that's why horror is my favorite film genre, because a lot of them are made with no money.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people going, well, I want to do this. How the hell am I going to do it? And it's like this group of people is always like, well, let's figure it the fuck out. Like there's a lot of people that do that kind of stuff. Like there's oh God, who's the big horror movie effects guy? The one time I need his name, I'm blanking on it. He did Friday the 13th. He's done everything.
Oh yeah, I know you're talking about, but I can't remember his name.
I'm gonna.
I watched Creepshow recently, and I'm pretty sure he did that as well.
Yeah. I'm gonna be so pissed at myself when I look it up and have to. It's Tom Savini.
Yeah, that's it.
And funny enough, talking about Tom Savini designed a suit for Ash for the new Evil Dead game.
Yeah.
And he also designed the most badass Jason for the Jason Friday the 13th game that you could only get when you pre-ordered. I never fucking pre-ordered it, so I never got to see it.
Oh no.
It always hurts me when I play it and that one chases me down and kills me. But there's these people who are like, you just have to figure it out. And I think that's where a lot of other types of films kind of don't get that ingenuity, because when you're strapped on a budget, you figure shit out and new things come about because of it.
Yeah.
So there's that type of shot. What is the other thing that Sam Raimi is known for, other than like the cut shots?
I mean, like so much. Like there's just so much to his style. He's known for a lot of like whip pans and kind of weird Dutch tilts and like just kind of very off-kilter angles. Fun fact.
His Dutch tilts don't.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Go ahead.
Well, fun fact about the style of this movie and like kind of the editing style, in particular, the shed scene in the first Evil Dead was edited by Joel Cohen, because Sam Raimi. Did you know that Sam Raimi lived with Joel Ethan Cohen, Holly Hunter, and who else was it? I'm trying to think who else it was. Oh, and Kathy Bates. And Scott Spiegel, they all lived in like a house together when they were making like Evil Dead 2 or whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
Just like
they're all like fighting together.
Huh.
So like the Coens helped with the editing of the first Evil Dead. So like when you see like stuff like Raising Arizona or a lot of Coen movies, it's kind of their careers are kind of parallel to each other. So like but they use the same kind of like shaky cam effect we were talking about before in Raising Arizona. Yeah.
This one. I've been saying a lot of things I haven't seen on this show a lot recently, and people have getting at me for it. I have only ever seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou from the Coen brothers.
Oh wow, really?
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I like all of his movies seem like something the brothers, like, there's stuff I would love. Like, I've never seen the full Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
I love Nicolas Cage. Never seen Raising Arizona. Like, True Grit. I've seen True Grit as well.
Right. I think if you like Evil Dead 2, you'll probably like Raising Arizona. It's a really, really good double feature.
That is a wild double feature. All right.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do that now.
Yeah, you should do it.
Yeah, but like I had no idea. It is always wild to hear about people who like lived together and like where they went.
Yeah.
Because like, what is it? Like Andrew Garfield, Robert Pattinson, and all those dudes lived together for a while, and it's like, what? Like, like so much talent in one space.
Yeah.
I do want to note that during this recording, I don't know if I talked to this at the beginning. I have been given G Fuel to review, and I took some before we started. It is Dead by Daylight, Liquid Lullaby. I'm telling you what, this really kicked up my. I was feeling out of it and like really tired. I feel like I just like did
Top notch.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try to list off narcotics here. It's very. I'm living. So good. All right. What do we want to? Let's talk about 2 because like
All
2.
right. The greatest movie of all time. The height of
I do think
cinematic
2 is.
achievement.
It is absolute. Citizen Kane could never do what Evil Dead did. What is your favorite scene from Evil Dead 2?
Oh man. So my favorite scene from Evil Dead 2 is maybe my favorite scene in anything ever. But it's a scene where I think it's just so good because it exemplifies everything that's great about Evil Dead 2. It's the bit when Linda's head has landed on Ash's lap and bitten his hand, and he's running into the shed. And he gets bit in the hand. He stumbles out of the cabin, and then runs over to the shed. Gets Linda's head in a vice, and then opens up a thing to reveal the chainsaw. You got like the chalk outline, and then Linda's like half naked body stumbles, and headless body stumbles into the chainsaw, and then he's like wrestling and tussling with the body, and then eventually gets the chainsaw off of her, and then chainsaws right through Linda's head and chops her up. I just think it's a scene that though goes through so many different tones. It goes from funny, and then to scary, and then to tense, and then to slapstick comedy, and then heightened melodrama, and it goes through so many different things. It's such a rapid pace, but all feels consistent. The gag of he opens up the little flap to find there's no chainsaw, and then cut to Linda's crazy body stumbling in with a really shoddy looking kind of effect. But it's so funny. And then it becomes kind of scary because you're whoa, okay, so it's kind of freaky. And then it becomes really melodramatic, and then that becomes funny. It's just operating on so many different levels.
That is it is such a beautiful scene. Is that when she that's not when she says, "You found me beautiful ones," or is that earlier?
That's Army of Darkness.
Oh, that's Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
That's where all my favorite lines come from.
That's where most of the iconic lines come from. But that scene, I think, is just it just pinballs through so much stuff, and that's what I love about Evil Dead 2 is that there is nothing to compare it to. When I was writing the blurb, I was thinking of movies to compare the films to. Evil Dead 1 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Army of Darkness is Ray Harryhausen kind of creatures and stuff. But there is nothing like Evil Dead 2, and there never has
nothing.
been. Yeah, it's so unique.
It's funny because, as I told you, I had these parties where we would just watch it, and the people who would come over were never horror fans. I was a theater kid, so I got a bunch of theater kids in a room and made them all watch Evil Dead 2.
Yeah,
and everyone laughs because it's such a fun movie. Even when it's super violent, you're that is so much blood. That is too much blood.
Sorry, I was just gonna say the blood. It's so funny because part of the fun of the movie is that it starts horrifying and then it gets pushed to such an extreme that it becomes comedic. The bit when the Hick character is being pulled into the cellar, and then Annie Nobi is holding onto his legs, and then all the blood
good old
is
reliable
gushing out.
Jake.
It becomes
is that his name, Jake?
I think so, yeah. And then it becomes just a geyser of blood. It starts off scary and then becomes hilarious.
Yes. The basement, the use of the basement door is one of my favorite things in horror. Is it 1, 2, then the new one all have the something creeping from because the basement in concept, the basement is a scary idea.
Yes.
There is a dark cellar in your home, the place you feel the most comfortable. There is somewhere in that place that is somewhere you don't want to go. Yeah. Even intrinsically, you know that there's nothing down there because you live in this house. But there's an innate, I've had it my whole life. I used to have basements. My parents' one house had a fucking terrifying basement. But even though you live there, you're there all the time. You're there's something scary down there. Yeah. And Evil Dead's there is something fucking scary down there. Don't go in the fruit cellar. Yeah. Because in 2 you get the fruit cellar witch. The first one they throw them down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played
the stairs break.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Ted Raimi. We didn't talk about him. I love all these guys. I think they're such a good crew of just like weirdos.
For sure, yeah.
But the basement is one of my favorite things. Or when the pipe breaks and all the blood and like the goo all over him.
The basement has become kind of core to the iconography of Evil Dead as a franchise. Like, for example, like Ash just came to Fortnite recently. And, like, the emote that he came with is, like, him struggling with the cellar door. Like, that little hatch has become such a core part of, like, the visuals of this franchise. Like, people know that cellar, like, you go down there, things are going to go really wrong.
Yeah, it's such a... man, the fact that Ash is in Fortnite now, I bought him the other night. And, like, playing that game, my crew the other night was Spider-Gwen, a pumpkin man, like a stormtrooper, and Ash. And I was like, what has IP become? But that's another story. But yeah, I think there's two scenes in Evil Dead 2 that I can never say which one's my favorite.
Yeah.
There's the one where the room comes to life and everyone starts laughing. Yeah. Because Ash starts laughing. And the way he moves his body, he's like doing like the accordion thing.
Where the lamp? Yeah.
Yeah. And like everything's laughing. They're all like kind of just like the whole room is just so electric.
Yeah.
Or when his hand gets possessed in the kitchen and he like grabs himself. You can tell me if this is real. And he grabs himself and flips his entire body. Yeah. Did he really do that?
Yes, and he can actually do that. I'll send you a video after this is done. There's a video of him when Army of Darkness wins a chainsaw award. I think like a Fangoria event or something. He gets up on stage and does that like 3 times. He can do that. Like, I think Bruce Campbell does not get enough credit for his performance in these movies because he is flawless. He has such a great control over, like, his face and his mannerisms and, like, conveying tone. Like, he's so locked into the style of it. And he's such a great physical actor and comedian. Like, he's so good to watch on screen. And, like, Evil Dead 2, the first half of it is mostly him by himself, like, struggling with himself and, like, wrestling with his hand and, like, just, like, it's so completely watchable and, like, you're so sucked into it. And it's just one guy, like, wrestling on the floor with his own hand. Yeah.
Like, his body is larger than life. Like, the things he can do are just, like, so... Like, you watch every moment. But, like, the kitchen, like, he's flipping himself. He's smashing plates over his head. He's, like... And it's funny, because he did the flip thing in Doctor Strange, didn't he?
I know. He grabs the back of his head, and I was like, is he going to do it?
Oh,
he smacks his face onto the fryer. But I remember seeing that and be like, whoa, is he going to flip over again?
Yeah. Again, Sam Raimi beating the shit out of his buddy. Damn, that was a good one. But it's like this gross house, and he's just like destroying it with his body.
It's like
and then the hand comes off.
I can't think of many other actors who could do what he does in Evil Dead 2. Like, it's such a it's such a tightrope to walk of, like, he's being campy, but not so campy that it becomes, like, stupid and ridiculous. Like, you still buy the interiority of his character. Like, Ash still feels like a person and not like a cartoon character. Well, in Evil Dead 2, at least, in Army of Darkness, he becomes a bit more cartoonish. But, like, yeah, like, you're rooting for him, but you're also kind of, like, thinking he's kind of a dumbass. Like, it's such a hard character to make work, and he makes it look effortless.
Yeah, I kind of love that he's a dumbass. Like, I really do.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I love that. So we'll talk about that when we get to the show, because I that is my favorite version of Ash. But two, like, you get this guy who, like, has gone through one of the most traumatic things. Like, the person he loved, the person he was, like, wanted to spend his life with, all of that. He has to kill her Then she comes back. He has to kill her again. And then as he's finishing it, the people who own the house show up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, fuck. Like, it's like all of that suddenly hits, and he is the psychopath. They're like, oh, my God, this wild man.
I think it's one of the great things about Ash vs. Evil Dead is how it contextualizes everything that happens in the movies, where everything happens in the movies is kind of just, like, fun and scary. But then once you get to the show, they're kind of like, no, this is, like, a really dark, tragic thing. They're like, this guy, everything that he touches is killed by this evil that has been tormenting him for decades. And it kind of like really, kind of like it digs into the trauma of that. I think, yeah, to make him a more interesting character.
Yeah, I can't remember the scene exact. I think it's in season 3 of the show where he's talking to maybe his daughter. Surprise. And he's just like, do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted my entire life to be this? Like, I never wanted this. I never wanted what was put upon me. I didn't want to be the one. Like, this sucks. Like, everyone I love dies. Like, I don't get to have a good time.
Yeah.
So, like, then you're like, oh, maybe the other, like, his, like, drinking and, like, the way he acts is because, like, he doesn't know if he's going to be around tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. And he's, like, masking his pain. That's kind of the whole point behind it.
Yeah, and, like, he's funny. He's a funny guy, but, like, then you're like, wait, is there something else? I can't remember if it's is Army of Darkness canon to Ash vs. Evil Dead?
Yes, though they couldn't actually refer to it until, I think, the end of season 2.
Okay, so he literally went back in time. Like, this dude got thrown into the medieval time. Like, he had to, like, deal with all that, then come back to everyone hating him. Yeah. We'll talk about that when we get to the show, but what else do you want to talk about Evil Dead 2 before we move on to
I don't know.
Army?
Evil Dead 2 is a movie I could talk about for, like, just hours on end. I've watched it with a lot of people, and everyone always has a different response to it. Some people think it's funny, some people think it's scary, some people think it's just weird and dumb, but, like, it's a movie where, like, it can be a lot of different things and still feel cohesive and fun, and it's just, like, yeah, it's my favorite movie of all time. Like, yeah, I watch it just, like, all the time, and I just, like, it's a movie that I'm never not entertained watching it. I will never get sick of it, you know? And like,
I could watch it 100 times, like, in a row and be completely fine.
There's a really good Letterboxd review I saw the other day, which I think describes so much of why I love it, this is from Matt Lynch on Letterboxd. It says, this is the most excited a movie has ever been to be itself, which I think is so accurate because, like, it's a movie that is just, like, it's so inventive and visually nuts and crazy, and it's just really having so much fun, like, being Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, I think it, like, you can tell that they had so much fun doing it. Yeah. Like, you can tell that they loved it. And they still love it. It's not like they're, like, not proud of it. Like, they still do all this stuff. They talk about it. They love what they've done.
Yeah. I think,
like, some people... Go ahead.
What's like Evil Dead 2 is them leaning more into the stuff that they loved. Like, they like Raimi and Campbell and Tapp and stuff made Evil Dead 1. And mostly out of a business thing because they knew that there was an avenue for horror, it was easy to get financed, and it could work at a low budget, and there was an audience for it. But they were mostly into, like, Three Stooges and, like, Looney Tunes and, like, all this kind of older comedy stuff. So Evil Dead 2 is them kind of working that more into it. So it's kind of, it feels a bit truer to who Raimi is as a person. And it feels like it's just kind of like looking into this guy's crazy mind more so than Evil Dead 1, I feel like.
I love that. Everything that I've seen that Raimi's ever done, like, I love because, like, there's such a joy to it. Like, you can tell he loves film. Yeah. But I don't think I've ever seen a Three Stooges other than Evil Dead. Yeah. I think Evil Dead's the only Three Stooges thing I've ever seen because, like, the eye poking, like, this dude loves that kind of, the slapstick is so, but it's never so far slapstick that you're like, oh, this is just goofy. You're like, no, this rocks. Like, I love this. Yeah.
Again, that's a movie that is just firing on all cylinders all the time. Like, I don't have any problems with Evil Dead 2. I think that's a pretty perfect movie.
Yeah. It's one of those movies I could just watch on repeat. This and RoboCop are the two movies that I could never get bored of.
The same year as well, 1987.
Yeah, great. Just absolute bangers. Yeah. They're so ahead of their time. Like, nothing like it has ever come since. Yeah. All right. So, Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness, it's so funny because, like, Scarlett had, the first time she saw it was when I watched it for this. Right. She had never seen it before, but she had seen all the rest.
What'd you think?
And she didn't realize that it wasn't a horror movie. She goes, this isn't what this is hilarious. Like, what is going when? Because she was writing a paper for grad school, and she like looked up at the scene where the mini ashes are running around. She goes, "What the fuck is this movie?" And I was like, "Army of Darkness." That's what it is. And like the pit fight, like there's so many scenes that are like, "What the hell is this?"
Which is funny because like the mini ashes scene, I would argue, is the closest that Army of Darkness gets to the first two movies.
Yeah. There's that scene is so funny because they're like, "What? Oh, London Bridge is falling down."
Yeah.
And he's like, "What?" And he's like trying to stomp. Then they get him, and then they sing it. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, incredible.
So Army of Darkness was actually initially intended to be Evil Dead 2. So they came in with the pitch for Evil Dead 2. They're trying to get funding for this fantasy movie. And then Dino De Laurentiis, who produced Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, was like, no, I think you guys should just do a sequel to the first one first. Do something more similar to that. Which I think was a great call. But also, like, I can't imagine going from Evil Dead 1 and then Army of Darkness without Evil Dead 2 in the middle. Like, it's just so strange. I think that they want to go with Cabin in the Woods, and now heightened fantasy with, like, skeleton armies and stuff.
Yeah, oh my god, the skeleton armies. So you've played the game, so you've versed them. So the skeleton armies in this are just like, they're not stop motion, are they? They're just like goofy.
So this is what I love about it, is that they're kind of a weird mix of everything. They're stop motion and also like puppets and like people just holding up like the top half of a costume or people in costume. Like it's just a kind of a whole mess of different like practical effects techniques. And like this is one of those movies that like came out just before CG started to become the main thing with like Jurassic Park. So like it's kind of one of his movies that's like the last kind of real effort of like, this is what you can do with the peak of practical effects.
Again, like watching this, like when they're getting blown up, like walking around on fire, it is so funny. And what was I going to say about them? So there's one who's playing, I guess this is the flute. What is the one where you play it like this?
Yeah, flute.
Like the pan flute. Like dude's walking around like that. And he's in the game too.
Yeah.
And if he's in the game, then the rest of the other skeletons are stronger. So I've just started referring to him as the tutor because he's tooting the whole time. And like anytime he comes on screen, I'm just like screaming like, someone kill the tutor, please God, or else we're screwed. So it's just like those type of things that like, they're so funny, but they're also like it's a really cool filmmaking thing. Who was it? Universal that funded this one?
Yes, Universal.
And they changed the name because they didn't believe in the Evil Dead brand.
I think it was part of that, and also because like they didn't have the rights to Evil Dead as a series, which is what's so weird about this movie is that like they made it as like, oh, it's just a kind of a fun fantasy movie, and like people at Universal didn't know about Evil Dead 1 too.
Incredible.
So weird.
They're just like, yeah, like you can make your fun little movie, and they're just like, wait, what the hell is this?
Yeah, like that's what I love about Army of Darkness is that it's a movie that should be impossible. Like it's crazy that a movie of this scale and this budget is this damn weird and bonkers and bizarre. But I love it because it's a movie where like it's clear that everyone involved loved making it. And it's like, I can't believe they are letting us do this. I can't believe we have this much money. Like it's what I love about Evil Dead is you go from the first movie where like they have like a minuscule budget and everyone left the set and they were just making it up as they were going along. And then this one, which has like all these crazy sets and stunts and like hundreds of extras, and it's just completely bananas.
Yeah, I love that they got more, like going from nothing to getting all of the money. They're like, hell yeah, let's go nuts.
Yeah. It's a movie where like
holy
they just
shit,
let them
Bill
go
Moseley
nuts.
was in it?
Who?
Sorry, I'm looking at the IMDb because I was looking for this one character's name. Bill Moseley was one of the wow.
Oh, really?
He was the Deadite captain.
Oh, funny.
Bill Moseley from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 fame and Rebo the Genetic Opera. It's funny, I actually interviewed him like earlier in the show, like towards the beginning, because I called a movie studio and was trying to get Nicolas Cage for some film. And they ended up, they were like, oh yeah, like, we'll let you talk to someone else. I was like, oh shit, nice. My favorite character in that one is Henry.
Yeah.
Henry the Red. Love that guy.
Yeah.
He's just pumped to be there.
Yeah, like I was just saying, it's a movie like all the cast are clearly just like enjoying being on set. And like it just comes through in the performances where everyone's kind of very boisterous and over the top and very animated. Yeah.
Huh. The person who played the pit monster
Yeah.
also played the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Oh, really? Well, that's funny.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Also, the special effects in this one, like, even though they're not good, like they're not like groundbreaking, the looks of that's something I love, that they have a distinct look to all of their creatures, their monsters, they all look so interesting and like intricate. Like the things they've done, like the thing that comes out of the wall in the pit, the thing that is the pit monster. Like it's so interesting to look at.
Yeah.
And you aren't expecting it. Or the bat thing that flies out of the air in the beginning? You're like, what the hell is that thing?
Yeah, like that's what I love about Evil Dead is that like, everything feels crafted, you know, like it feels like it's made with care and with someone who actually put like some hours and elbow grease into it, you know, like it feels, every single part of both those movies feels created. And it also feels like very artificial in a very like endearing way. Like the cabin in Evil Dead 2, like the interior of it looks like a Scooby-Doo backdrop. And like Army of Darkness, all of the effects and skeletons all look really kind of cheesy and crass and like low budget, but also like high budget, but like they all look very artificial in a way that is just so endearing and charming.
And then it becomes like it. I feel like this is one of the most quoted horror movies of all time, because you got the you ain't leading two things right now, Jack and shit, and Jack left town, like things like that. The boomstick speech, the hail to the king, baby.
Yeah, and like
go ahead.
They're good lines, but like they're also like a pretty terrible lines. They're mostly great because of the way that Bruce Campbell delivers them. Like maybe my favorite is the bit where like Ash is in the Castle Kandar, and he's like kind of like celebrating, and then they're like the old lady becomes like possessed like a deadite, and then he like shoots this kind of like this little like cauldron of hot water, and the camera like pans over to him, and he's loading with the boomstick, and he's saying, "Yo, she bitch, let's go." And just like the way that he says it, it's so over the top and cheesy. It's so damn.
He has like
good.
such a machismo, like such a way about him. That one, I think my favorite is the good, bad, I'm the guy with a gun.
Yeah, and that's
which
changed
brings me
in the director's cut, which I don't like.
What's it say in the director's cut?
In the director's cut, he says, "I'm not that good," because the
I don't
bad,
like that.
Yeah, I know, it's nowhere near as good.
No, it's nowhere near as good.
Yeah,
because the good, bad, because he's he's just some Midwestern asshole. Like he's not like a hero. Like he wasn't. He was thrust into this position.
But like the fun of Army of Darkness is that he's acting above it. Like there's a bit when Sheila, like the love interest, is kind of like touching some kind of little piece of equipment or something from his car, and then he's kind of like taking off and being like, "Oh, don't touch that! You wouldn't know what it is with the molecular structure." And like as he's talking and realizing he has no idea what he's talking about either, but he's trying to act smart. Like how he calls all of the villagers and stuff, he calls them primitive screwheads.
Oh yeah,
it's so good.
Oh, when Arthur's like, are all the men from the future loudmouth braggarts?
Yeah.
He's like, nope, just me, baby, just me. Like he's such an asshole. Or the fact that like the wizard is trying to teach him the spell, and he does not listen.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, yeah, I got it, it's fine.
Yeah,
and
it's just
fucks himself with it.
It's so funny. And it's so weird because, like, he's not really like that in Evil Dead 1 or 2. It's such a weird heel turn for the character. But it totally works, and you totally buy into it. Because you're like, I guess if you would go crazy, and if you were in, like, a medieval, like, in the Dark Ages, you'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be a badass now.
My only thing is, like, where do you get all the ammo? Like, I know you're not supposed to think about those things in movies, but his Remington shotgun has 2 shots. So every time you shoot one of those, you get 2 shots. You have to reload. Where the hell was he holding all the shells?
Well,
like
even when he fires it, he doesn't fire 2 shots. He fires like 4 shots at one point.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Like, I just love how they don't care at all about those details. Like,
And again, you're not supposed to. It's supposed to be cool. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather go for cool than make any sense.
like in the 3rd act, Ash is teaching all of like the people in the castle like how to fight, and I'm like, how would he know it all? Like, why is he the one instructing them? They've been living and fighting these guys way longer than he has. And there's a bit where he's like walking downstairs with 2 swords, fighting 2 skeletons at once. Like, he just becomes a master swordsmith in this movie for no reason whatsoever.
God, it's so good. I love that guy. Love him. He's just the best and worst thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh God. And then, so after okay. There is the alternate ending of Army of Darkness, right? Where he goes to the future.
Yes, which was the original ending, and they shot it, and they were asked to do reshoots to have a more uplifting ending.
Yeah.
Which
And then they bring it back for, I like him coming back because that sets Ash versus Evil Dead into motion, because he does end up going to the future in the end of Ash versus Evil Dead.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm cool with that. And I think it was nicer to have it end on that note, because then you see that, like, those problems don't go away.
Yeah.
Like, he's still fucked.
And I think it works better with the tone as well. And you get some of the best lines in the ending with S-Mart as well.
God. The whole S-Mart thing is so funny, because it's just, like, this dude who works at Walmart.
Yeah.
And, like, he's, like, fighting the most dangerous things on Earth, and if he wasn't around, the world would be fucked.
Like the bit where he kicks the cart and he tosses the gun and he lands on the cart, catches the gun, and he shoots the dead like 50 times. It's so funny.
Oh, God. Or the fact that he builds himself a mech hand.
Yeah.
With no knowledge. He just has, what is he, like a chemistry textbook or something? He just figures it out.
Yeah, it's all totally ridiculous.
Oh, the car. The Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
The Oldsmobile, is it in all of Sam Raimi's movies?
It's not in all of them. No, he says it's in all of them, and it's not. It's kind of apparently it's covered, like in Quick of the Dead is Western, and Oz the Great and Powerful. Apparently, like, took the chassis out and like redressed it like a carriage or something. So like the rest of the car is in there, but like parts of it are.
I saw it when I saw it in Doctor Strange. I was like, I was the only one in the theater that got a pop out of it. It was just nice to see it there. But that leads into Ash versus the Evil Dead, which I think is, again, it's, if Army of Darkness Ash was like Ash cranked full volume, this is cranking Ash to 11.
Yeah.
He's banging. He drinks and drives the entire series. Like, there are many times where he's just driving, crushing beers, throwing them in the back seat, and I'm like, what? Like, dude, where does he want to go at the end of season 1? Miami? Is that like the end game for him?
No, it's not Miami. It's something dumber. It's like some
Tampa?
No, it was
like
like I can't remember what it was, but it was like some kind of mundane location, I think. But I remember it was the location that he was going to go as an alternative to the cabin. That's why he wanted to go there so much. Because, like, that's where he could have gone.
Oh, that got me very different results. I'm going to... Googling Ash Beach is going to get you more Pokemon than it's going to get you anything else. Close that right out. Not dealing with that. But I think the reason I love this show so much is because it's Ash, Pablo, and Kelly.
Yeah.
I love those 3 together.
For sure.
Because Pablo loves him and he worships Ash. Kelly thinks he's a dumbass. She knows he's a dumbass. But those 3 together are so funny. Like, their dialogue is so well written between the 3 of them.
Yeah.
And there's like the will they won't they between Kelly and Pablo for a bit, or where she keeps calling him my pussy because he was like,
that's right.
There's like so many wild things. I honestly, like, I rewatched it I rewatched it 2 or 3 months ago. I'm probably gonna rewatch it again.
Yeah.
Because, like, some Samara Weaving's in it too. Ash gets a daughter. It's got Lucy Lawless. Like, it's such a good series.
Yeah. And the first episode is the only one directed by Raimi, but all of it does such a great job at like feeling like the original movies. Like they get the tone and the style and the craft of it like down perfectly. Like they even when they go back to the cabin in the end of season 1 and 2, like they're doing stuff that like feel like gags that could have been in Evil Dead 2. Like they're doing stuff that feels totally in line with the movies.
How much involvement did Raimi have?
I think he kind of came up with the initial pitch and developed the characters and then did the pilot and then he was out. I don't think he had any more involvement.
It's kind of awesome. Also,
Yeah.
It was Jacksonville.
That's it, yeah.
Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
Just now I'm reading the quotes. It's kind of like spilling paint on a painting. It's okay. There's already paint on it.
Yeah.
Just like some of the, like, it's so true to Ash's character but it's so cool that it's not written by the same teams.
Yeah, I know. It's my personal favorite, like in this era of like legacy sequels where every person has to come back. This is my favorite of all of those because like it actually introduces a new cast who are as interesting as the old cast, and it has all this great kind of fan service that doesn't feel like pandering at all, and it all feels like actually earned. Like in season 2, they bring back Ted Raimi as Henrietta, and like that could feel really kind of like janky and like okay, it's a little bit patting itself in the back kind of, but it works so well and it's so well integrated into the story.
Chet?
Yeah.
Chet is fucking, he's just his asshole friend who's just like a mess. Oh God. What is the drink they make? The pink,
Pink, and then in the game it's called Pink F because they're trying to censor it, but
yeah.
It's Pink Fuck.
God, it's like, it's got like, ketamine in it.
It has ketamine in it.
I might have to try that one of these days. But he, like, just the fact that he's there and it's just like this complete wild character. He's a character who's like wilder than Ash. And it's so, I think the really cool thing is that season 1 doesn't lean too heavily on the past.
No.
Like it's moving forward.
Yeah.
But then in season 2, you get to see what happened to Ash after Evil Dead. Like they called him Ashy Slashy. Like they think he killed his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And like, imagine going through that pain, going into medieval times, and then having to come back to have everyone in your town think you killed the person you loved. Like, and no one takes you seriously. And then he opens the hardware sex shop, which is just a marvel of.
But like that's what's great about the show is that it expands on like not only like the aesthetic and the vibe of the and the lore of the movies, but also on like the characters and the thematic ideas that they developed. And like it's always interrogating like, okay, this happened in Evil Dead 2, well this happened in Army of Darkness. What would that mean? Like how does that affect the world today? How does that affect Ash today? It's such a well written show.
I'm really sad that it didn't keep going.
Yeah,
like I
same.
loved. And supposedly they're working on an animated sequel, which would be awesome. But like,
Are they?
yeah,
I didn't know about
Bruce has talked about it a couple times, but you never know. You never know what's going to happen with Evil Dead. Because like, we've got, what's the new one called? Evil Dead Rises?
Evil Dead Rise, yeah.
Yeah. And that's about two sisters?
I'm not sure, but it's set in like a high-rise building. So it's like Die Hard Evil Dead.
Yeah, which I love being set in different places. I like the idea that like Evil Dead doesn't have to be this set thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we should talk about the remake.
Yes.
Or Gab will fucking kill us. If they listen to this episode and we don't talk about the remake, I'm going to get some nasty Slack messages. I actually got to see this one early because my buddy worked at a movie theater in college. So I got to see it before everybody else. I remember just sitting in the theater with the mirror scene, just being like, "Oh, this isn't going to be like what I was expecting."
Yeah,
like I was like, "Oh, it's going to be fun like the other ones." No, it went back to horror and like
it pretty much
heavy stuff.
It just like all of the kind of the campiness of the original 3 films and kind of just goes back to that first one and kind of, yeah. I admire how much it did that because, like, Evil Dead had become known as, like, a horror comedy series. So it's kind of bold of them to go, like, no, we're going to do our own thing and, like, make it as good as we can. And, like, that movie is, like, really gnarly. Like, I'm pretty okay with gore, but there's a lot of stuff in that movie where I'm like, oh man, I'm like struggling to like keep my eyes on the screen. It's so bad.
I think there's one part where they take a fire poker and it goes through his hand, like in the hand. You can't.
Yeah.
The listeners cannot see this, but I'm tapping my finger between the center of my hand and like slices it, and it's like, oh my god, like how much did that hurt?
Yeah.
But like I think the deadites in that one are like probably my favorite because they're like really, really fucked up.
Yeah. Real scary.
Yeah. Oh, that's wild. The old woman in the remake is the first. So you know, in the first episode of Ash vs. the Evil Dead, where Pablo throws him the chainsaw, he catches it in the air and like slices.
Yeah.
Same actress.
Oh really? Huh.
Yeah, that's finally a crossover.
Yeah.
But yeah, I honestly, it was like it's so much more visceral than anything else. Like it's like very, very heavy.
Yeah.
My cat is banging on this door.
Yeah, it's one that I don't recommend as often. Part of it because I think it's the weakest of the films, even though I do still really love it. But also just because, like, yeah, you could have a real high tolerance for gore and blood if you want to be watching that one. Because, like, Evil Dead 1, I think you can even watch. But yeah, like, the remake is just real rough. All good?
Sorry, my cat was at the door screaming, and she was banging on it. So, like, she will hit it so hard the door frame, like, shakes. She's just a little cat, like, 10-pound little monster. But yeah, I like the remake a lot. I probably wouldn't watch it before I watched the other ones.
Yeah.
I did, actually. For this rewatch, I watched this one first, because I was like, all right, I'm going to get this one done.
Yeah.
Because like it doesn't fit tonally with the rest of the series.
No.
But I did like that it like had a little bit more going on with Mia having to like they're bringing her there to detox and the brother who wasn't there and like the horrors of addiction and like having to face that.
There's more thematic stuff going on in that movie. It's trying to deal with more stuff than the original one was.
Yeah. And it's directed really well. I think, is it Fede Alvarez?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
I think it did. I really liked Don't Breathe. It was, it had some stuff that was a lot.
Yeah.
But they've only done a couple of things. They did the story of the requel Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I will say is one of the worst things that's ever happened to horror. just kidding. The remake of Nightmare on Elm Street is probably the worst remake that I've ever seen in my entire life. I will never. That is the one, like, I'll give most films another chance. I will never give that movie another chance.
Yeah.
Oof. But I would say, I really
in this era of like where we had a lot of horror remakes and kind of reboots, I'd say this is one of the stronger ones. Like, most of those really don't hold up, where this is one that I think can stand like head and shoulders next to the original.
Yeah, and I think it's its own thing too. Like, it uses the ideas, but like it's not like the other films.
No.
Like, it's
that's why I like it so much. It's not a slave to what Evil Dead was. It's like, okay, they did their thing, we're gonna kind of use it as like a springboard and then do our own thing and do something completely different, which I really love.
That's why I like it. I think it uses the source material to be something different and better in a different way. I think it was like the first of the remakes that didn't like super follow, but it was just as like I enjoyed it just as much.
Yeah.
Also, the ending is so fucking cool. Where the house is on, the cabin is on fire.
Yeah.
The blood rain and that monster that's coming after her.
Yeah.
As she's like completely fucked up.
Yeah.
She's like crawling through the blood, and she has the chainsaw, and it's got such cool imagery, and the horror is so well done.
Yeah.
But the blood rain is really where it's anything that has blood raining from the sky, be it Evil Dead or Blade, incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my god, hold on. The licking of the knife.
Yeah.
Oh, that one's a lot too. I'm just
think
looking at pictures of this movie.
The roughest thing I think is when Mia is like crushed under. I think it's just like some rubber. Like I remember maybe it's like the car. You know, she's crushed under something, and then she like rips her arm off by like pulling it out. And it's just like really slow. Oh, so gross.
The book looks good in it too. It's just like straight up flesh stapled together. The basement shot is so good. I'm really glad that it happened, and I really hope this second one does as well. Raimi's involved with this new one, right? He's not directing it, but he's like involved.
He's producing it. He produced that one as well.
Yeah. And then the Oldsmobile is in that one. She sits on in the beginning. So they added her to the game recently.
Yeah.
And I was like so excited to play as her, and I played as her. And in the movie, she has a Michigan State sweatshirt on. In the game, she has a Scared State, which I feel like is a play on Scared Straight, which is a rehabilitation thing in the U.S.
Oh, right.
I was like, Jesus. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. I'm really excited. I really hope we keep getting more Evil Dead, but I hope we keep getting very tonally different things. Like they use the franchise for what it's worth.
Which is what I think that like Raimi and Campbell and stuff have recognized with like what they're doing in Evil Dead Rise. Like they've said that it's a very like early word is that it's really good, but also very different. And I hope that like they keep moving into doing different stuff. That it doesn't have to be all centered on Ash. Like I like that they're kind of experimenting and trying different things.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't ever want anyone else to play Ash.
No, for sure. Yeah. I think
it's just like it's like Freddy Krueger. I don't think anyone else can do it.
Yeah.
But yeah. What else? What else? Is there any other things you want to talk about the franchise?
I don't know. I just think I think it's a really unique franchise that I don't think there's anything really like it. It's just I think it just for me personally lines up with like so much of like my interests and my tastes. Yeah, I just love it so much. I hope that if people are listening to this spoiler bit and they haven't watched any of it yet, I'd hope that they would go out and check out all the movies and the shows and stuff.
Nothing that we say can live up to what actually happens in these movies.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Watching Bruce Campbell flip his entire body is just so funny. And the level of practical effects that were used for all of them, love that stuff. As a big horror person, I think practical effects fucking rule.
Yeah, and I would even say, like, if you're not a horror person, I would still recommend Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. Because I think they're just great fun films in general.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You can find us at GateCrashers.fan for all of our reviews, analysis, and all the different articles that we put out. And you can find us next week. And here is the finale of GateSlashers 2, I Want to Believe. You boys ready? Once we kick this door open, it's boomstick, book, and incantation to stop the grave robber. Then we're all getting 4 locos.
You kick open the door, we bum rush the grave robber, and Ethan grabs the book once he lets go of it.
Let's lock and load, boys.
Oh, look, it's a trio this year. Nice try, but GateSlashers is forever.
Jake, hit the play button. Ethan, grab the book.
No, not the book.
We'll hold him.
Got it! Looking for the spell to open the portal.
Jake, headshot this fool.
Holy shit. His hood's off. He's...
Me?
You. I told you the monster was you.
But, how?
I think it's finally time you let him in on the little secret. Don't you, Jake?
Oh no. So, you remember when I mentioned you dying before? We rebooted the universe after you died fighting Darkseid with Dr. Manhattan's powers. We pulled a DC and exploited Watchmen's popularity. You died, so we rebooted the universe and thought everything was fine and dandy, but...
Not at all. Darkseid's anti-life equation created this. The Grave Robber, the Dark Dan. The antithesis to all that you two are. I'm gonna unleash hell on Earth.
Well, that's some heavy shit. And you survived?
Monsters never die. You see it now?
See this!
Weakling.
Ethan's here to save the day. Ah!
Ethan's knocked out cold. Shit, what will I do?
Just read the goddamn book. Just do it. I'll handle him.
Clock 2, necktie. That's not it.
I know every move you can make. I am you.
Thing is, Grave Robber, I've learned a lot since we last met. I've changed to become something different.
The only thing you're gonna become is a cadaver in a wooden box.
Wow, that sounds like a dead end for me. I'm really not dying to be put in that position. How would I even text my friends if you're putting me in a dead zone?
Shut up!
Klaatu Varata Niktu.
What is this, some triumph for a Superman?
Nope, just needed to distract you long enough for Jake to open the portal before I kicked you in the jewels. Works like a charm.
Cheap shot, but it won't stop me.
Shit, he has a shotgun too! Our only weakness!
Close the portal after us. Let's go, Grave Robber. Taking you back to hell.
Dan. Well, shit.
Great Diana's ghost, why would you do that?
We beat the Grave Robber, but it seems like Dana's lost in time and space.
Rip.
So, you know someone who can help out, right?
Jake, are you asking if I know the Doctor?
Yeah! You're from Wales. I assume you've all met the Doctor at least once.
No, I don't know the Doctor.
Shit. Well, guess he's lost forever. Happy Halloween, everyone!
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight. Spooky, scary skeletons speak with such a screech. You'll shake and shudder in surprise when you hear these zombies shriek.
Where the hell am I? This place just looks way too advanced to be regular spaceships that I know. Oh, God. Oh, please don't tell me I'm in the future. Clearly I'm in space. If I look at the portal, all I see is darkness. But there's, like, nobody here. That can't be good, right? Neither can talking to myself. Let me go through these files. Wayland Yutani? I wonder what the hell that means. What was that? Is there something in the vents? Oh no.